Yes, people, welcome back to the Joey Knight podcast. And before we get into this video, I need you to do me a massive favor. Hit that subscribe button below and join this growing community. We're closing on 5,000 subscribers now. So subscribe to the channel and hit the bell to get notified every time one of my videos goes live. Chelsea have had the worst season of my entire lifetime. There's been a very straightforward blueprint on how to beat Chelsea this season. That is, you turn up with your kit, 11 fit players on the field, and you're probably going to come away with the 3 points. We've hated this season. We've had the media and the opposition fans have loved the season Chelsea have had, but I am here to tell you that maybe, and just maybe, it may not all be doom and gloom for next season. Here's how I think we turn Chelsea back into contenders next season. So let me lay down a few ground rules before we get into it. Firstly, I am going under the assumption that Pochettino will be our manager next season. Secondly, I'm also assuming that Todd Boehly hasn't found any more of his infamous financial fair play loopholes, meaning that we will need to balance the books and cut down this overbloated squad. And finally, we've overpaid for players under Roman Abramovich's reign and now Todd Boehly's, which means we will incur financial deficits on plenty of players, but if that's what it takes to get them out of the club and sort this mess out, then so be it. So I've gone through the entire squad, and here are some of the names that I believe we can get rid of this summer and whether or not we can get fees for them. So starting off, Edouard Mendy, 31 years old, a good shot stopper but very suspect with his feet. I'm going to say we can get around 8 mil for him. So next up's Koulibaly. He hasn't been as bad as some people have made him out to be. I actually thought he was all right in our Champions League run, but in the Premier League, he's been a bit hit and miss. I do think, though, we need to build for the future now. I'd rather see Levi Colwill come back in instead of him, and for that reason, I would sell him. I think that a Serie A side maybe would still take him on, and I reckon we could get about 15 mil for him. Trevor Chalobah, this is one that pains me to say a little bit. He's an academy product, and he is a player that I very much like, but as time goes on, it does look like he's nearing towards a Chelsea exit. Obviously, he's a young player, he's English, and I think for that reason, we're going to get about 20 mil for Trev. Cucurella, I really don't want people coming for me in the comments saying we need to give him another season. He just ain't that guy. We completely overpaid for him, and I've watched him play so many times. He's not a good footballer. I know that Pochettino has a reputation of getting the most out of his fullbacks, but I don't think Pep, Klopp, Ancelotti, anyone could do a job with Cucurella, man. We need to get rid of him. What would anyone pay for Cucurella now? I don't know. Offer him to Brighton for 10 mil. Asby, he's a club legend. He's won it all. But if we're all being honest, he's about 3 seasons past his sell-by date. I'd let him go and retire over at Barcelona on a free transfer. Right, so onto the midfield. Dennis Zakaria will return to Juventus. And then in and around that first team squad for the midfield, you've got Kova, Kante, Enzo, Mount, Gallagher, Ruben Loftus-Cheek, Kane Chukwuemeka, and also the possible arrival of Andre Santos. Now, that's 8 players competing for possibly 3 spots. And when you hear my arrivals later, I am in favour of bringing in a midfield, which means we are going to need to chop at least 2 of those midfielders off. It does pain me to say it because it's going to be 2 players that I really like, but I think we're finally going to say our goodbyes to Ruben Loftus-Cheek. I see him going and playing for definitely a top 10 Premier League side and doing a good job. Maybe an Aston Villa, somewhere like that. For Loftus-Cheek, I think we could get 15 to 20 mil for him. Let's be a little bit more pessimistic and say we get 15 mil for Ruben Loftus-Cheek. And then the other one, and I would put a buyback clause in this contract if possible, Conor Gallagher. I think Conor Gallagher will go on to be a top Premier League player. I think he showed massive promise at Crystal Palace. But I do think that when we're looking at balancing the books, Conor Gallagher may be one that we need to get rid of. We've also got young players, obviously, like I mentioned, Kane Chukwuemeka, who I think can do a really good job. So Conor Gallagher, listen, Everton came in with a bid for 40 mil before. I wouldn't be surprised if we can get that again. So let's put down 40 mil for Conor Gallagher. I'd also now finally cash in on Callum Hudson-Odoi. He's had an underwhelming loan spell. It's mad to think at one point Bayern Munich were going to offer about 40 mil for him, but I reckon Callum Hudson-Odoi you might get about 15 mil for. Christian Pulisic, he's in the last year of his contract. I do think that if he goes back to the Bundesliga or the Dutch League, La Liga, anywhere really, I think he can do a job at a certain team, but he's just probably not the right fit for Chelsea. I still think we can get 20 mil for Pulisic. Ziyech, he's got to go. What would someone pay for Ziyech realistically? 30 years old. Would you get 10 mil for Ziyech? Let's say we get 10 mil. 10 mil for Ziyech. I can't see anyone paying anything for Aubameyang, so let's just try and cancel the contract or something, get him out the door. So that now means we've made a hypothetical profit of around 150 million. Now, with solid recruitment, that sort of money can go a long way, but being so far under Boehly's regime, the recruitment hasn't been solid, or we've grossly overpaid for players. I wouldn't hang my hat on that money being spent wisely, and we also have to factor in the fact that we posted 120 odd million of losses last season. season which need to be counted for, which means it leaves us with about a budget of maybe 30 million to spend on players. And that for me means that we need a big name sale. Now, the obvious, heavily rumoured one all season has been Mason Mount, who it looks like you would probably get around 50 mil for. But if you look at the job that Pochettino has done in the past with creative midfielders such as Dele Alli, Christian Eriksen, Moussa Dembele, even Adam Lallana at Southampton, it begs the question, could Poch help Mount rediscover that form and become vital for Chelsea once again? Now, the problem is Mount wants about 300 grand a week, which I think would make him around the highest player at the club. And a lot of Chelsea fans, including myself, have spoke out about the fact that maybe for the here and now, that might not be right for us. But thinking about it now, off the top of my head, there is another player around Mason Mount's age with the same sell value on about 300 grand a week, and that player is Kai Havertz. Now, it's a hard one for me because with Mason Mount, I actually know what he does, whereas with Kai Havertz, I don't. That's no fault of his own. He's been played out of position pretty much since he signed for the club. Also, obviously, Mason Mount is an academy product, so it's going to be 100% profit on a sell for him, whereas Kai Havertz will be making a loss. But I did originally say that I'm not taking that into factor. I really don't know on this one. I need you lot to let me know in the comments, Kai Havertz or Mason Mount. If we had to sell one of them to help balance the books, who do we let go? Let's assume we do sell one of them and we get 50 mil for that player that we sell. So now in this fantasy financial world, we have a kitty of about 80 million pounds to play with. So here are the positions that I think we need to strengthen in. Starting off, goalkeeper. I just don't know if Kepa is up to the job. He's confident, and being that he's a young goalkeeper, I believe that he can improve a lot. But at the moment, I wouldn't really put him even in the top 10 keepers in the Premier League. So I've already said that I would like to try and offload Mendy. And as tragic as it sounds, I think we might have to be looking in the old relegation bargain bin for a goalkeeper. The two obvious ones for me are Melia at Leeds and obviously Pickford at Everton. If either of those teams go down, I'd probably go Melia at Leeds. I'll bring him in, let him and Kepa battle it out for the number one spot. And I think for Melia, if Leeds were to go down, which I think they probably will, you could probably get him for around 15 million, let's say. Left back, this is an easy one. Bring back Ian Maatsen. Let's rotate him with Ben Chilwell. Give him minutes and first team experience, almost a little bit like we've integrated Benoit Badiashile this season, and have him ready there to be the future at left back. Also, if you look at Pochettino's style of play, it's a very high intensity style of play, meaning that young players in the team with lots of legs in them will be vital for us to implement his style of play. So having the likes of Ben Chilwell, Ian Maatsen, and even Lewis Hall in the mix as left back options leave us with tremendous strength in depth in that position. Central defensive midfield. Now, this is a very, very important position for us. As much as people like to make the old Makelele and Kante comparison, Kante's not Makelele. Kante is a player that will win the ball and drive forward with it. And as much as I love him doing that, it does leave spaces open. Now, at the minute, the way I see it is Enzo is the man that's being relied upon to fill those spaces, and that is not getting the best out of Enzo's game. And that's why, as much as he's not really put a foot wrong, we haven't seen the same Enzo Fernandez for Chelsea that we've seen for Argentina. I need someone to sit in that space. And I think the likes of Caicedo and Declan Rice are just going to be silly money. So for me, I would go back in for Edson Alvarez from Ajax. We were trying to get him before. He did want to come to us, and I think we could get him for around 35 million, which in today's market, pretty good value for money. And the final position that we need to address, we need someone to put the ball in the back of the net. If you look at the likes of Arsenal, they haven't got a 20 goal a season striker, but everyone across that front line and even the creative midfielders such as Odegaard has chipped in with their goals. And who knows, next season under Poch, maybe Nkunku, Mudryk, Havertz, Sterling, Roa, Madueke, they might all get 10 plus goals and the problem might be solved. But I do think that we need to explore the option of the dying breed in modern football, the old school number 9. Now, I personally am a big fan of Armando Broja, but from the glimpses I've seen of him, I don't believe, as talented as he looks, that is enough for me to hang my hat on him being our number 9 next season. So we have some options. Do we go big for Victor Osimhen, the unlikely move for Harry Kane, maybe a Vlahovic, maybe activate Tammy's buyback clause? Or do we address the elephant in the room and bring back Romelu Lukaku? Now, I don't think the club will be anywhere near as against bringing back Romelu Lukaku as the fan base may be. And who knows, under Mauricio Pochettino, maybe Romelu Lukaku could finally, after all these attempts, become the player to lead Chelsea's line and banging goals for fun like he has elsewhere. But, and this is a big but, I just don't think he's a good egg. I think that if Romelu Lukaku isn't playing, he can become a very negative impact on the dressing room. We've seen that from the interviews and whatnot that went on in the past. And for me, as much as I think that a player like Broha could learn a hell of a lot from a player like Romelu Lukaku on the training pitch, I just don't think it would be the right move to bring Lukaku back at this point. So that means that I would part with more cash for a striker. And for me, I'll go with Ivan Toney. Ivan Toney guarantees you goals. He is proven in the Premier League. He is the best penalty taker in the Premier League, if not world football. He's very good with his back to goal, good link-up play, very, very rarely makes the wrong choice, and he's a player that I can see gelling straight into our system. There is one problem with the Ivan Toney option, and that is obviously this possible pending betting scandal ban thing that he has going on, but let's say in a hypothetical world, none of that is happening. Ivan Toney would be the perfect number 9, in my opinion, for Chelsea next season. I think that we can get Ivan Toney for around 50 million. Now that takes our spend to 100 million, which means we are now 20 million in the red. I do think that we could recoup that in possible loan fees for some of our younger players that need to go out and get minutes, or even just by selling Romelu Lukaku. I know we're not going to get the 97 million back, but surely there's someone out there that will pay 30 million for Lukaku, who's a proven goal scorer. Now, I said about some of our younger players being loaned out, and notable loanees for me would include the likes of Gabriel Slanina, Harvey Vell, Amari Hutchison, Cesar Casady, and David Datro Fofana, who from what I've seen of him could probably go to maybe one of the promoted clubs or a top level championship club and banging goals for fun next season. So all that being said, here are 2 possible ways I would like to see Chelsea line up next season. Obviously, my preferred formation is a 3 at the back. I've always thought that Chelsea have played way better with a 3 at the back, but Poch has been known to play with a 4 at the back, and even doing that has been able to get the best out of his fullbacks, so either option is on screen now. Now, obviously, going on my previous videos, you'll all know that I wasn't really in favour of bringing Pochettino in. He's an ex-Spurs man, but he's not quite Rafa Benitez, is he? And once he walks through the door, every Chelsea fan, if we can string a few wins together and he can improve this side, which, look, we can't really get any worse, can we? We will get behind him and we will support the team. Now, I'm definitely not naive enough to just believe that sorting the squad out gets rid of all the problems Chelsea have had since Todd Bowley's takeover, but it can't hurt, can it? Now, next season is vital for us. Chelsea are a big enough club that we can afford to be out of the Champions League for 1 season, but we can't have a 5-season hiatus like Arsenal have just had, with financial fair play, growing discontent from the fans, and also the massive gambles of handing out these 8-year contracts. We need this year to be a blip, and at least we need to get back in them Champions League spots next season. As for the ownership, I really don't know at the moment. I hope it works. I hope one day I'm sitting in the Matthew Harding and we're singing Todd Bowley's name, but I wouldn't hang my hat on it just yet. One thing I do know is I think that an owner should be in attendance. I think that an owner should support the team. And you know what? I even think after a domestic cup or a league win, maybe the owner should celebrate with the players. But the owner should not find himself walking across Stamford Bridge into the dressing room after a home defeat and giving a dressing down to the players. Todd, know what you are and know what you aren't. You're the owner of the football club. You're not the manager. Let Pochettino get on with the job. Let him pick his players. Let him get rid of the players he doesn't want and invest in the players that he does want to bring in. If you do all that, then maybe, just maybe, we may have stumbled across a formula for success. People, what do you think? I want to know your thoughts on everything I've said in this video, all my decisions I've made that I believe can turn Chelsea into contenders again next season. Let me know in the comments, and please, once again, do me a massive favour. If you have liked this video, I am smashing out content like this every single day, so please subscribe to the channel, share the videos, hit the bell so that you get notified every time I go live. I'll see you in the next video.